The Live Financially Savvy podcast was created by Atia, the savvy accountant. She is a CPA, CA, and certified financial educator instructor. She has a passion for building generational wealth and wants to help you and others to do the same. She's created the podcast to help others live financially savvy. Lower your debt and build your net worth using techniques you learned here from others doing amazing things to live financially savvy.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Live Financially Savvy podcast. I'm your host, Tia, aka the Savvy Accountant. And today is a really fun episode that I had recording with none other than Dominique Brown. So keeping into my theme, I wanted to highlight men in finance doing amazing things for the community. And so today I'm speaking with the credit king, if you want to call him that. He actually has like a perfect score, a perfect credit score. He was featured in magazines for his perfect score. And so we're going to definitely talk about credit. And we also talk about like financial education and the importance of what it means to be financially educated and how he thinks that you can build generational wealth for the next generations. And so I had a really good time recording this episode, and I hope you guys enjoy. So just a little background about Dominique. He's a licensed financial advisor and realtor. He helps individuals and small businesses overcome their financial roadblocks and helps them become financially free. West Philadelphia raised him. He was raised by his mom and dad, and he surpassed the struggles of growing up in a single-parent household to obtain his degree from George Mason University in IT security. However, it wasn't until his mother went to financial hardships, and so he's going to talk about that on the podcast. And so he basically has this motto that finances can be fun. And so we get into his background, we get into credit. So we're going to talk about all things credit. We're going to talk about how he thinks that you can build generational wealth. And while he thinks that personal finance is personal and he thinks that every case should be handled individually, we get into some things that we think people can do overall to break the barriers that are blocking them from basically living their best financial lives. So without further ado, we're going to get into the interview with Mr. Dominique Brown. So good night. Thanks for joining, Dominique. I wanted to thank you for coming on, and I just like the audience to hear from you in your own words. So if you could just introduce yourself and give a little bit of your background, I really appreciate it.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I'm always excited to talk money, talk finances. So a little bit about me is, honestly, I did not care about finances until probably a year before I was getting ready to graduate college. And the reason being is I grew up in a single parent household in West Philadelphia, was heavy into athletics and sports, and frankly I like video games and computers. So I went to school for IT security, and that's what I studied. But growing up in inner city and, single parent household and your mother being your superhero, and I'm a Capricorn. So what happened was, my mom did everything she could to kind of shield me from an inner city environment. I came down to the crashing reality when she told me that, hey, she's going through a divorce and she's going to have to give up the big house, the car, go back and live with grandma, and to not be able to help her financially, one, and then not have the skill set to help her even from an educational standpoint didn't really sit well with me. So that's when my life kind of changed, and I took on finances full steam, and here we are today.
Okay. So I guess that change happened as you were older. So that's why you felt like you couldn't help at the time, because you were older. So you thought you probably should have been able to help.
Well, I would say my mother always taught me like financial principles of, play money and, saving and stuff like that, but I couldn't help. Right. So, a person who raised you, right. You grew up in an inner city where your next door neighbor didn't quite make it out too well, and the other neighbor was, incarcerated. These are your friends. The kids you walked to school went to jail. That's the environment I grew up in. And to be shielded from all of that, to kind of get out, right? And the person who kind of 9 to 5, 6 to 2, shielded you from all that. And then when they need help, you don't have the money or the education to help. That hurts.
That does hurt.
So it was kind of like a person who and number two, a person who I've never seen take a loss in my life. Like literally, this is my superhero. Like Superman did everything right. And then all of a sudden Kryptonite came. You're like, whoa, you're a little bit weaker. So it was all that came crashing down at the same time. Right. So that hurt. I was like, as a grown man, I literally cried.
Yeah.
And then, that's when it was like, you know what? This is never going to financial setbacks and, is never going to happen to my person, my immediate family. But more importantly, I need to learn this stuff so I can help out the person who raised me. And honestly, my mother was my first client.
That's awesome.
So shortly after a year, 2, maybe 3 years, I was able to regain everything that was lost. And then the conversation that was had was like, you know what, you're pretty good at explaining simple, complex concepts and making them simple. And then, your finances simplified, which is my social media moniker, kind of was born.
That's awesome. And I definitely can relate because I know my beginning story of where I started my financial journey very much later in life came about when my youngest sister, because I'm the eldest, she got accepted to med school. And then I realized, damn, I have no way to help her whatsoever. So she's at this great point where she got accepted to school and now she doesn't know how she's going to pay for it. And I take my oldest role, very responsibility. And it was just hurtful that I couldn't help. And so that kind of catapulted me into getting my finances in order.
Well, the awesome thing is she's in med school. So hopefully the results of graduating and the network, kind of makes it all make sense.
Yes.
But that's also what I tell people, all the time. Personal finance is personal, right? And no one is born with this financial planning gene. It just doesn't happen. Some people are great at math. You got some savants who are, they can listen to a song and play it, but you never hear the story of someone saying, you know what, this person was just amazing with stocks and bonds and saving and investing. No, this is all discipline. This is all learned, right? Exactly. So either you have somebody at the dinner table talking to you about this all the time, which generally we don't, or you go through something, whether it's an illness, whether it's a family member, unfortunately passing away, which sparks your interest in finances or estate planning, or, you have a family that forces you to get your act together. So, fortunately, I guess you and I both learned at a young enough age to be able to change it around. Yeah.
And I definitely agree that I feel like it's just the knowledge. And that's where the gap is for so many people. If they just weren't taught.
Right.
And I think that's the difference with our community largely and other communities is that it is talked about at the table, like you said. And it's just passed down. And so it's basically just part of the conversations that they have. So they're just more aware of them.
Right. And what I realize is a lot of people who look like me are, say, first generation rich. Right. And then they're first generation rich broke. That's the other scenario. Right. Because we are the most millennials and, people who born in 1980s and to now are probably the most educated. But our parents didn't have $100,000 student loan bills.
Exactly.
Right? They didn't have to compete in a world marketplace, right? It was kind of everything was isolated. Like if you knew the guy down the street and you was good with your hands, you had a job.
Yep.
You didn't really need a education. Now everything's changed. Like for example, African American women are the most educated in the world, but yeah, that comes with $100,000 student loans just for
student loans. Exactly.
And then you're graduating to $50,000 and a $50,000 tuition. How does that work, right?
Yep.
So it's not like, and of course they don't talk about this in high school. Like there's no, even in college, they might have it now, but there's no financial planning class.
And there definitely should be.
It should be, but they got to, all right, even if they have it, they have to make it to the point where it's important enough for you to take.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, you're the savvy accountant, right? So they have accounting classes, but did you really delve into how much you should save, how to really buy a house smart. When you get your first job, make sure you invest into. I didn't get
no.
I didn't get any of that. Right. So you learn this when you graduate, you realize, oh, wow, I really can't be everything they told me I could be in this world. So, all right. Yeah, I can go order to order what should have happened in our public education.
Definitely.
Curriculum.
And so I just wanted to jump back a little bit. So I know your background, and I know that you're basically known as the credit king. Mm-hmm. And so I was researching you, and I saw that you you actually have a perfect credit score. So I wanted to know if you can go back and talk specifically of how you arrived at that, coming from where you started.
Okay. Completely stumbled upon it. And it's a super weird story. So back in my day, even if that's a thing, when you went to college, this is when, credit card people can be on campus, right? And generally, you'll be walking down a little promenade or something like that and say, oh, you want a pizza? Well, hell yeah, I want pizza. I'm a broke college student. Okay, sign up for this credit card. So I had like 20 credit cards in college. Fortunately, I didn't run them up. Now, my credit score went to trash by doing this. But then when I realized, as I'm, studying the credit algorithm, what makes it work, it actually was probably one of the smartest things that I've done. So if at this time, you can't do this anymore, but it was 19 or 20 and I opened up maybe 15 or 10 credit cards. Now, I didn't overuse the cards. I kept them very low balances. But when you have 10 things reporting on time every month times 12, you tend to max out your ability to the payment history run, which is 35% of your score, which is on a scale of 300 to 850 is 192 points. So I'm hitting that 100%. Then there's something called utilization or amounts owed. Well, if I have, say, $200,000 to $400,000 available credit cards and I'm using like $1,000 a month, I'm maxing that out, right? That's 30% of your score. That's 165 points. Then you have your types of credit, which I was doing pretty well. I had a student loan, I had an auto loan, I had credit cards. I had what you considered a trifecta. And then around 2009, I got a mortgage, which is the holy grail mix, essentially. I talk about this in my challenge at YFS Credit. It's a free challenge. And then it's the length of credit history. So what sets me apart from everyone else is if you ever looked up some really geeky stuff, but the FICO high achievers list, they break down the average length of credit history for someone in 800 plus is roughly around 9 years. Well, I have 10 years. So you add all that up, I have 21 plus accounts reporting on time every month perfectly. I have 1% utilization. I have 10-year credit history. I have the perfect credit mix. So all of a sudden, now I'm at 850. Right. So
that's very impressive.
It was just it was like happenstance. And then, as I'm studying, I'm like, oh, wow, I got a mortgage. I got a student loan. I had an auto loan. I had a home equity line of credit. And I got like 10 credit cards. Wow, I have everything that's needed to check all the boxes. Now, here's the thing. And I tell the people all the time, I just had a bunch of people in the group. They're like, well, how do I get to that score? I said, listen, I'm just going to tell you right now. I do it to swing my credit score around. Well, what do you mean? I'm in industry, right? And if one of my angles is come talk to me and join my free challenge or watch my webinar or join my service because I have the perfect credit score, who would you rather deal with? The guy who has the perfect credit score who wants to help you, or the person who claims they understand credit but can't show you perfection? Mm-hmm. Right? So once you get over 760, you and I get the same interest rate. I might be able to do more deals than you because my score is a little bit higher. However, once you get to 760, you're good. So I did it from a marketing standpoint, a discipline standpoint. It's kind of like the trainer, right? Like who would you rather learn from? The gym trainer with the 4% body fat with the abs, or the guy who's technically sound? I just happen to do both.
Yep.
There you go. Another weird angle. So I'm actually a licensed financial advisor. I literally failed at the financial advising from a marketing standpoint. I'm in the DC area and I realized that all the money is very old money. People who look like me tend to don't have it. So I was competing against people who were kind of in the country clubs or already had the network. And I'm a young guy. I know what I'm talking about, but old money doesn't listen to young voices. And I learned that, especially when you talk about investing millions. So I was like, all right, what's another angle that I can take? And the angle was the credit angle. And it was like, my actual program is comprehensive financial advising at the price of credit repair. So it was like, okay, I'm dangling out the credit card, the credit stuff, because, okay, if this is what attracts you. Once you're in the program, I give you what you want. I'll give you what you need. Right. So, okay, yeah, we're going to do credit improvement. We're also going to do budgeting. I'm going to talk to you about your goals. We're going to set up a 401k. We're going to set up a Roth IRA. We're going to talk about home ownership. Oh, by the way, besides the one-on-one stuff, we're going to have classes for this too. So if you didn't want to just take my word for it and say, hey, do this. Oh, I have a course on how to buy a home smart. Oh, I have a course on how to start a business and build business credit. Oh, I have a course on how to invest in the stock market between 0 to 100 years. So it's like a shock to people. They're like, oh, I thought this was just credit. I was like, yeah, no problem. We can get your credit up. But what's up with the stock market, though? What's up with starting a business? Oh, that was my angle. It was like, no one heard me. I had the same business model and no one heard me for 3 years. Literally, completely ignored it. But soon as I started talking about credit, all of a sudden the wave of people came in.
Isn't it crazy how that's like what gets people in?
You got to speak people's language, and I realized that. And I wasn't talking the language of my demographic, right? When if I'm coming to you saying, I think everyone talks about budgeting, but if I'm talking to you about investing and if you can't imagine investing right now because you're so hell bent on, improving your credit score, it's my fault for not properly marketing to you. Mm-hmm. It took me a long time to figure that out. Fortunately, I was working for somebody when I was figuring all this out. But once I figured it out, I was like, okay, this is a great angle. This is an amazing angle to take. I'll charge the same rates as every other credit repair person, but I'm going to tell you right now, we're doing way more than that. I even tell people in the interview, credit repair is full of crap and everyone in the industry sucks. I say that in my video. They're like, what? I was like, yeah, this is exactly what we're going to do. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. There you go.
Yeah, that is crazy. I do see a lot of credit repairs, like companies out there. And I'm always skeptical just because based on the research I've done, I know that there's a lot of things that people can do on their own versus needing help. But I just feel like it's like oversaturated with people focusing on that, but there's so much more.
You can do everything. I firmly believe that there's nothing you can't do financially if you take the 6 months to a year to actually focus and do it. The problem is people don't focus and do it, right? They kind of half it, right? Budgeting. There's tons of people who, for example, there's a whole industry on consolidating your student loans. I'm like, what? Consolidating federal student loans is an industry where that's something you can go on a website to do for 5 minutes. Literally, I've seen people charge $600 for that. I'm like, do you know that you can just like dial the number on the statement? But you have to realize something. That McDonald's also sells hamburgers, right? They sell 1 billion of them. There's always a market. Yeah. And it took me I'm going to tell you this. I wrote a book, How to Fix Your Credit. In the book, it says, I'm writing this book because I'm tired of y'all asking me about credit questions. So read my book, get all the answers. The people bought the book and then contacted me, asking me for services.
You got to give the people what they want.
Right. So the way I make myself feel better is say, listen, we're going to do that, but we got to do more. I can't just do credit repair because if I don't teach you how to budget, what are you going to be? Right in the same position. Because if 35% of your score is paying your bills on time, I have to show you how to properly manage your money.
You have to manage.
And once I get you looking at your money in a systematic way, there's no going back. There's no backsliding. You're investing now. You're talking about real estate. You're moving from a consumer to an owner. And, I show you how simple it is to have your next generation wealthy with even $100 a month in the stock market. If I can just get 100 people to put $100 away for 100 years, their next generation and the generation after that be extremely wealthy. And I think I'm hoping a lot of credit repair people kind of see that too. Like, give them what they actually want, right? Not to get all civil rights movement, but the Martin Luther King, it was the civil rights movement. Then the next movement was civil rights, right? So if you have self-worth and you have your health and, if you secure your finances for your generation, you don't ever have to have your hand out.
Yep.
Right. So once again, I know I completely went off on a tangent.
No, you're fine. I'm
kind of passionate about this.
Getting 100 people to invest $100 for the next generation, because my passion is to get people aware of building generational wealth, because I definitely think that our community is a lot further behind other communities, and we have to basically start. We're not going to get caught up by doing nothing, without sounding harsh, but
well, that's true.
And
you know what? The thing that crushes me sometimes is because it's not sexy, or it's not like investing, like especially for long-term stuff. Like, for example, $50 a month invested at 100 years, earning 7% interest, will end up being $7.5 million. And when I explain this to people, I'm all like, "That's $50. That's 5 Chipotle bowls a month." Right. And when I say that, they're like, "Wow." I'm like, yeah, it's very simple it doesn't have to be hard. You just have to carve out a little bit of your money for this. And you have to be adamant about it and consistent. It's no different than working out, right? If you want a six pack, you don't look at the TV and say, "Oh my God, look at The Rock and Kevin Hart and all these other ripped guys. I'm going to be like that in a week." You respect the process, right? You give yourself 3 months, you give yourself 6 months to get ready. But when it comes to money, everybody wants they want now money, and they never really think of the long-term money. Like it's now was this way. It took me a long time to really figure this out, but it was just like, wow, I was really tripping. Like, just because the stock market wasn't going up and down going up drastically, I felt as though I shouldn't have been doing it. And I probably missed out on a few $1 million of my long-term investing plan by not just putting the money in the account.
Exactly.
It's very simple. Like, go to Vanguard, put it in a S&P 500 index fund, have it automatically come out your account. Forget about it. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Live your life. Go flourish. As long as you put $100 away, your next generation will be very grateful for you. And that's what I'm doing with Olivia. I'm just telling you that right now. I'm doing that with Olivia. We're going to have the conversation. Listen, babe, take what you need for your house. Take what you need for your career. Take what you need for your college education. All I ask of you is that you put it back. And then you tell your daughter or your son what this is. So when they graduate and all of a sudden in 200 years, that same $50 a month turns to $6.5 billion. Now imagine if you came into this world 21 and your mom said, "Hey, here's $6.5 billion. This is what you got to do with it."
Oh my gosh.
Just because you decided to plant that seed. That's all we need is somebody to plant a seed, man. Exactly. That's all we need.
Isn't there like a proverb or something about somebody sitting in the shade today because somebody decided to plant a seed years ago?
Yeah, I think that I don't want to mess it up, but I believe that is a proverb. I don't know from which.
No, I'm not going to try to get
from, but it is. It is.
But that's exactly what it comes from.
Mm-hmm. And it goes with everything.
And it does go with everything. And I think a lot of people in the financial world they compare it to health. And when you're working out, and doesn't happen overnight. You basically have to commit to doing it for you to see the results.
Right. It's weird that people will go to, I know some people will go to the gym for 2 hours a day, but won't spend 2 minutes setting this type of account up.
Yeah, that's
2 minutes.
Yeah, I guess it's just about mindset and switching it, and they just don't see the benefit. I'm guessing, but that's what we're trying to change.
Well, it's not right now, right? We're in a microwave society to a degree.
Yeah.
Right. And I like the microwave and a little bit of slow cooker. I'm not gonna lie. So I think you gotta have fun with both, right? I think you have to set up your legacy account where if all shoot your shot, by all means, go for what you go for, but have the small legacy account just not saying just in case, but
Have it.
it's just having it,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of like when I realize it's nothing for a lot of people to divert 25 or $50 a month.
And I think just even when you save $25 and then you just start there and then you get into the habit of doing it weekly. And then when you get a raise, then you can do $50. And I feel like once the habit is formed, then it's easier to just maintain it. But I feel like they just need to start.
I agree. And then go for the gusto on your business. Go for the gusto on educating yourself to make the most money out of your job. Yep. Real estate, if that's
real estate. Yep.
Yeah. Just do both. Do both.
Exactly. And that's basically what I want this to be. I want it just to spark something in somebody that's listening for them to say, I should go check out Vanguard right now.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you take nothing from this interview, you can go to Vanguard, Fidelity, whoever you would like to go to. All I ask is that you choose a low-cost index fund. I will recommend any of the S&P 500 ETFs or index funds. They generally are it's like zero fees. Like per $10,000, you'll probably pay like $20 in fees. However, the S&P 500 over 20-year rolling periods has not lost money, right? On average, it has earned between 7 and 10% over 20-year rolling period. So even if you aren't in you can just invest in one fund.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have to be a 60-40 split or anything because this is a legacy fund, right? You're not looking at the stock market
every day. You're not gonna.
You got 100 years to play this game, right? Just like you don't get mad if you're running a marathon. You don't get mad at your workouts that you did 3 months ago, right? You just put the work in. So very simple. Vanguard, S&P 500 ETF until you get $3,000, I believe was just their minimal for mutual funds. And then you have it automatically investing. And then you just forget about it. And all you have to do is literally write it in your will, write your requirements in there in your will, and what should be done with this money. And then tell your family exactly what you're doing. And be proud of yourself when you pass and you're giving someone millions, because you will be giving someone millions of dollars.
And I want people to like screenshot that they open this account and say that they heard it here, because that's what I just want to like affect change in people in my community. That's where my passion lies, to get us onto a level playing field. And so I'm definitely putting this in the show notes. So that they know where to go, and I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible for them.
Yep, that's exactly what it was, right? So it's like there's so many ways to invest in real estate, the stock market, the whole nine. But for this particular account, I want no barriers. There should be no excuse.
Exactly.
Like, unless you're telling me I don't got 50, cool, do 25.
That's exactly my point. You can start with anything. You just get into the habit of doing it, having it come automatically, so that you don't have to think about it, so that you don't have to talk yourself out of it, so you don't have to, well, I need to pay this week. If it goes automatically, you don't even see it, so that you have no issues with spending it there.
I think is a great way when you put it that way, right? Because I'm not telling you no to your new car. I'm not telling you no to your shoes or eating out. All I'm asking is for you to take $25 and say, I'm going to be the first one, or maybe the second one, or the third one in my family to think about a future generation.
Yep.
It's a very selfless act, right? People have no problem giving to charitable causes. I love them, but take care of home base.
And that's like a perfect example. I like that, because I definitely do give to charity, but I definitely feel like building your generational wealth is of the same importance. And I feel like similar to life insurance, where some people don't see the importance of it because, I mean, they don't benefit from it. Let's be honest. It's not something that they're going to benefit from. Right. So sometimes it's on the back burner. It's not something that they're thinking about currently, but it's something that's going to help the next generation.
Yeah. I mean, life insurance, thing I can definitely see is, certain types of life insurance, you can't touch it. But say, for example, you're 30 years into this $100 game plan or $50 game plan, and you decide to change your mind. You still got a lot of money. You still got retirement saved, right?
That's a very good point. So you can benefit from it.
Yeah, I'm about to say, you can technically change your mind with this game plan. Say you're looking at your grandchildren, you're like, you know what? I don't like none of y'all. I'm going to live my best life on the beach in Bahamas. You can do that if you decide to go that route. So, I would say if you want to have an alternate plan for your retirement, this is a great way to shore that up, because I'm going to tell you this right now. In 20 years, a lot of jobs just aren't going to exist, right? A lot of things that we felt safe in aren't going to be there. So there's a lot of disruption happening. No one thought the hotel industry can be disrupted, Airbnb. No one thought taxi cabs can be disrupted, Uber. No one thought that the car industry can be disrupted, Tesla, right? Now this guy's sending people to space. So what do you think is going to happen to your job in 20 years, especially in a global economy where there is a very educated there's a very educated population in say, Southeast Asia, right? Yeah. And they need a quarter of what you get to survive. And, you're talking about they sound like you, they have just as much education, but they're a quarter of the cost. So you got to secure yourself, because, a lot of things that we were accustomed to, we're used to, I just don't think they're going to be around in 20 years from now.
Yeah. And speaking of 20 years from now, a lot of people are relying on, a lot of companies don't offer pensions anymore. So you have to think about what you're going to be doing after you're not even able to work anymore.
Yeah, I don't. Everything everyone's moved to defined contribution plan. They'll give you a little cut of it, but you really have to be thinking of something else. And honestly, I think every person graduating now who is 1980s, I would say 70s and up, you had to be thinking of some form of entrepreneurship. You got to understand something. A generation ago, the barriers to getting into entrepreneurship were so high. Now it's very easy. You can be an entrepreneur off your cell phone, right? Think of Instagram. That's all mobile traffic.
Yep.
So if you have information, if you have knowledge, I think you don't rely on that steady paycheck. You use that as your safety net as you carve out your legacy. Right. So, you're taking a little bit, you're doing your legacy planning from your job, but you're also taking, if you're working 8 hours a day, you're spending 2 on, okay, I'm bottling up this information that I'm very good at, and I'm trying to now distribute it to the world, because I have 50 million people at my fingertips via my cell phone now.
Exactly.
So, before you had to be able to network, you had to know a banker, maybe you had to be in a certain class, right? Live in a certain neighborhood. It doesn't exist now. My business model couldn't work 10 years ago, right? I served people online. Me and you couldn't speak 10 years ago. Even the fact that we're doing this communication, you're like, oh, this fairly new, awesome communication method isn't working, so we're going to move to this awesome communication method. Right? That doesn't exist. So, all the barriers that were blocking your blessings aren't there anymore.
I love that.
They just aren't. Like, if you take a step back and you think about it, like, you know what? You can say this. I'm very good at twisting up my natural hair. You can get your camera and twist up every day, and all of a sudden you can sell a tutorial on that. You can sell that for $100, and now you have a whole community, a whole tribe who's buying from you, just because you had the balls or the ovaries to move forward with said game plan.
Exactly. And I definitely agree that falls into like creating multiple streams of income, because you need to secure your own future. And that's just
yes. Like, I think you said it earlier with the pension thing, right? I think that was the turn of the tide of that. I personally, corporations are for profit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you have to move accordingly. We all know the horror stories of, just had a friend go out on maternity leave, came back, and all of a sudden her job was gone. That's illegal,
Yeah.
But that's what companies do, right? They didn't like fire you just all of a sudden. Your job that you had and you loved for the last 4 years is no longer here for you because you decided to have a human. Like, what? If that's the kind of world we in, okay, I didn't know we was moving this way. So you have to understand, no one's going to pay your bills. No one's going to, you know, you have to work towards your dreams.
Exactly.
If you're talented at something, you are disrespecting the people who need you by not starting.
Oh, that's a very interesting way to put it.
You probably have something that you can share with people, right? They need you. They're over there. They're starving. They're dying without your help. And you're sitting on your hands and you got all this talent built up in you, right? So, you go to work for 8 hours a day, serve people your gifts.
Yep. You definitely need to serve your gifts. Because if he came to serve, then you can serve.
Exactly. Exactly. And then now what you have is something else that leads into another area that leads into the quality of life and happiness. And I never really understood this when, I read quotes from like super wealthy people saying money isn't everything. I'm like, what? Let me try that out.
You're like, let me tell you.
And then like life happens, right? Like with me, it was, I used to be a program manager in DC for DHS. Was making considerable amount of coin because I'm in the DC area. I think everyone makes a considerable amount of coin, but I was commuting 2 hours to go to work. And then, I have a child and, I'm making all this money and I couldn't even afford to give her 15 minutes. So what a lot of people don't realize, a lot of my older pictures on Instagram where I'm like in a suit with Olivia and we're taking pictures, I did that every day, but there was a lot of pain behind those because I'm on the train, like, because I didn't want to commute traffic was horrible. And I'm just looking at the pictures because I literally had like 15 minutes. Like I snap a picture and then, I'm smiling and then like I'm going all day. I come back home, she sleep. That was like super motivating to me. Like, did your mom really work this hard for you to kind of work 8 to 10 hours a day? Is like, that's what this is all about. Like you're making over $250,000 and you literally can only give your child 15 minutes.
Yeah.
What? That's crazy. That's not why you did. That's not why your mom worked hard, right? That's not why she shielded you from that. That's not why you went to undergrad and bust your butt, right? That's not why you took all the certification. So, there has to be a better way. And then that's when I realized, I had the fancy car, the custom suits, and I still got the suits. I don't got the car anymore. But it was just like, this is corny. Like, this is whack. Like, you got a kid and you got like a whole 15 minutes, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, right? So when you're so I'm at my job, right? And I'm very good at what I did. So I was able to start downgrading some of my energy levels. Like, okay, I'm gonna give y'all 50% because I need to work on my other thing, right? The thing that I'm truly passionate about. And what happened was the first year that we ended up leaving, I ended up making 6 times what I was earning at my day job by simply working in my passion. After, of course, I did a bunch of trial and error. So you're going to realize that once you start working in your passion, and because you're so passionate about it, it's just easy for you.
Yeah.
And people are going to hear that in your voice. They're going to vibe with you. And then you have more money than you need, but more importantly, you build your business by design. So you'll have the time freedom, right? To work with who you want to work with, serve who you want to serve, take care of your family. Now you're happy. That's what it's about, right? Personal finance is personal, but at the end of the day, it's about being as happy as you can be with your time on this earth.
I definitely agree 100%. And so I usually like to end with asking people what live financially savvy means to them, but I feel like you just like summed it up in that whole.
That's what it means to me. Personal finance is personal. If you like to travel, you need to set up your finances so you can travel 2 times a year. If you like purses, set up your finances so you can get your purse every once a year. If you like cars, set up your finances that way. But take care of business, right? Still take care of the legacy. Take care of the emergency fund. And make sure that you are happy. Not fake happy. Happy, right? Happy to the point where if you're in the airport 5 years from now, that's what I call the X test. And you run into your ex, whatever was a good or bad relationship. You hear a familiar voice and they say, hey, how's it going? And you say, life is great. Well, why is it so great? And you should be able to rattle off everything on why it's great. That should be financially, that should be health-wise, it should be relationship-wise. That's what you need to strive for. Because if you're not striving for that, what you doing?
I like that. Is there a name for that?
You run into your ex, you got to flex. Life is great. I got a 6-pack. I'm traveling 2 times a year or 2 times a month or whatever it might be. My IRA is stacked. I'm working with who I want to work with. I wake up when I want to wake up. Whatever that means to you, write that down and start moving towards that. If you're doing things that are pushing you away from that, what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to stop and do something else. That's how I get down.
That is great. Like, you just gave a lot of advice. And so I really wanted to have you on this episode because I wanted to do a series where I was talking to men in finance, Black men specifically. And because I feel like this kind of financial world for millennials that I'm accustomed to, that I'm seeing, it's really a lot of women that look like me. And so I wanted to show the other side because I know a lot of men doing a lot of great things in finance and helping the community. And so you definitely gave so much information that I think is so useful. And just talking about the different parts of the credit that people need to concentrate on and what they can do after they start talking about their credit, because there's so much more to the financial world and financial education besides credit. And so I definitely thank you so much for taking the time.
I thank you for having me. And see, I didn't curse.
You did not.
Kept it PG. Kept it PG for you. It was very respectful. My mother would be proud.
And so is there anything that you want to share with the audience? Like, do you have anything going on that they can look out for?
I do have a challenge coming up, yfscredit.com. It's the How to Fix Your Credit Challenge. You and I will spend 14 days together. Of course, with a group of people, we'll have 3 Q&A sessions, 14 days of daily tasks. And I literally will walk you through how to understand your credit to how to improve your credit on your own, which hopefully get you to think about all the other stuff we talked about inside of this amazing podcast as well. So your foundation is set. Once you have a strong foundation, you can actually build an amazing financial house on top of it. So that's what I have coming up. And I would say if you would like to join the free challenge, just head on over to the website.
Sounds good. So I'm definitely going to put that in the show notes. And so thanks again for being on the show. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to working with you as well. And of course, if you need me to reach out to anybody else to be on the podcast, just let me know and I'll reach out to my contacts.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I can use all the love. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for listening to the Live Financially Savvy podcast. You can hear the episode at livefinanciallysavvy.com, and you can get all the show notes at livefinanciallysavvy.com. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at Live Financially Savvy. And let us know what you think. Please like, comment, and share, and rate and download wherever you listen to your podcast. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.